A desperate call in the rain. Two 4-year-old twins eating scraps outside a locked door. A dying mother inside. And a billionaire CEO who answers a phone meant for a dead man. What starts as a shocking discovery becomes a journey that will shatter everything Nathan Brooks thought he knew about family, love, and the brother he lost. Can one phone call change 4 lives forever? Before this story begins, subscribe to the channel and type Amen in the comments. A beautiful piece of good news may come your way very soon. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Brooks Industries Tower as Nathan Brooks signed the final merger documents. At 38, he'd built an empire his late father would have envied. The pharmaceutical company now dominated the East Coast market, and tonight's acquisition would push them into national territory. His assistant had left hours ago, but Nathan thrived in these quiet moments when the city below became a blur of lights and the only sound was his own breathing. His personal phone, the one only 5 people had the number to, buzzed on the mahogany desk. Unknown number. Nathan normally ignored such calls, but something made him answer. Perhaps it was the lateness of the hour, or the strange weight he'd felt all day like a storm approaching. Hello? His voice was crisp, professional. There was a pause, then a small, trembling voice. Daddy? Daddy, we're eating in the rain. Nathan froze. The pen slipped from his fingers. The door's locked and Mommy won't wake up. The voice continued, innocent and terrified. We're really hungry, Daddy. When are you coming home? His heart hammered. Sweetheart, I think you have the wrong... Daddy, please. Another voice joined in, identical to the first. It's cold and the food is yucky and Madison is crying and Mommy won't answer and... Slow down, Nathan said, his CEO composure kicking in despite the chaos in his mind. Where's your mother? Can you see her? She's inside, the first voice said. We can see her through the window, but the door's locked. We got the phone with a stick through the mail slot like a fishing game, but we can't get in. Nathan was already moving, grabbing his jacket and heading for the elevator. What's your name, sweetheart? I'm Mia. This is Madison. We're twins. We're 4 years old and 3/4. There was pride in that last part, despite the fear. Mia, Madison, you're being very brave, Nathan said, keeping his voice calm while his mind raced. I need you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Don't hang up. He burst into his IT department, startling the night shift skeleton crew. Trace this call. Now, I need an exact location. The lead technician, Marcus, didn't question him. One look at Nathan's face and he was typing furiously. Give me 90 seconds. Nathan returned to the phone. Girls, are you safe? Are you hurt? We're on the steps, Mia said. Outside our door. There's a roof thing, so we're not too wet, but our dresses are soggy. Madison found some bread in the hallway trash, but it had fuzzy stuff on it, so we didn't eat a lot of it. His stomach turned. Good. That was smart. Don't eat anything else, okay? Help is coming. Are you really our daddy? Madison's voice this time, smaller, more hesitant. Mommy said Daddy went to heaven. She said he was a good man, but he's with the angels now. The room tilted. Nathan gripped the edge of Marcus's desk. Tell me your daddy's name. Christopher, Mia said. Christopher Brooks. Mommy has a picture of him. He looks like the men in the suits on TV. The air left Nathan's lungs. Christopher, his brother. His younger brother who'd died 3 years ago in a car accident. Christopher, who'd always been the charming one. The one who fell in love too easily and never mentioned. Got it, Marcus said. Address coming up now. North Side, Riverside Apartments, Unit 3B. Nathan was already running for the elevator. Girls, I'm coming to you right now. Stay where you are, stay on the phone. Can you do that? Okay, Daddy. I'm not... He stopped himself. Now wasn't the time for complicated truths. I'm coming. 15 minutes, I promise. He took his private elevator down to the garage, phone pressed to his ear as he listened to the twins talk in their small, scared voices. They told him about their day, how Mommy hadn't gotten up for breakfast, how they'd tried to make cereal but couldn't reach the bowls, how they'd knocked and knocked but she wouldn't open the door. We thought maybe she was sleeping really, really hard, Madison said. Like when bears hibernate. We learned about that from the library lady. Nathan's Mercedes screamed through the rain-slicked streets. North Side. Of course. Christopher had always had a bleeding heart for causes. Had he fallen in love with someone from the neighborhood where they'd grown up before their father's pharmaceutical patents had made them wealthy? "We're not supposed to touch Mommy's phone," Mia was saying. But this was emergency. We remembered the ICE number. Mommy showed us. She said if anything bad happened, we press the ICE button and call the number. ICE, in case of emergency. And Christopher's old number, the one Nathan had kept active, unable to cancel his dead brother's phone line, had been listed. For 3 years that phone had sat in Nathan's desk drawer. 3 years of silence. Until tonight. "You did exactly right," Nathan said, weaving through traffic. "You're very smart girls." "Mommy says we get it from our daddy," Madison said softly. "She says he was the smartest man in the world." Christopher. Smart. Nathan nearly laughed at the irony. His brother had been brilliant, yes, but impractical. A dreamer. He'd walked away from the family business to teach high school chemistry because he wanted to make a real difference. They'd fought about it. Their last conversation had been an argument about responsibility and wasted potential. And now apparently Christopher had left behind 2 daughters, 2 little girls eating moldy bread in the rain. "I see your building," Nathan said, pulling up to a decrepit 4-story walk-up that made his chest tighten. Broken windows. Graffiti. A front door hanging on one hinge. "I'm here. We see a fancy car." Mia's voice brightened. "Are you in the fancy car?" "Yes. Stay there. I'm coming up." He took the stairs 3 at a time, following their voices up to the 3rd floor. And there they were. 2 tiny girls in identical pink dresses that might have been pretty once but were now faded and torn. Blonde hair in tangles, blue eyes, Christopher's eyes wide with hope and fear. They were huddled on the landing, and next to them was a pile of garbage they'd apparently been picking through. Nathan's heart shattered and reformed in a single moment. "Daddy?" Mia whispered. He knelt down, meeting them at eye level. Up close, he could see they were far too thin. Bruises on their knees, dirt under their fingernails. But they were looking at him like he was their salvation. "I'm Nathan," he said gently. "I'm your daddy's brother, your uncle, and we're going to help your mommy right now, okay?" Their faces fell slightly, not daddy after all. But they nodded. Nathan turned to the door of 3B and knocked hard. "Hello? This is Nathan Brooks. I'm here with Mia and Madison. Please open the door." Nothing. He tried the handle, locked. Through the gap at the bottom, he could see a sliver of the apartment and a woman's hand, pale and motionless on the floor. "Stand back, girls," he said, pulling out his phone to call 911 while simultaneously ramming his shoulder into the door. It took 3 tries before the cheap lock gave way. The apartment was tiny, barely bigger than his walk-in closet. But it was clean despite its poverty, carefully organized, everything in its place. And in the middle of the small living room, collapsed next to an overturned chair, was a woman. She was young, maybe 30, with the same blonde hair as the twins. Even unconscious and clearly ill, Nathan could see she was beautiful. Her face was flushed with fever, her breathing shallow. An empty prescription bottle lay near her hand. "Mommy!" The twins tried to rush past him, but Nathan caught them gently. "Let me check her first, okay?" He knelt beside the woman, checking her pulse. Weak but present. Her forehead was burning. "The ambulance is coming. What's your mommy's name?" "Sarah," Madison whispered. "Sarah Brooks." Brooks. She'd taken Christopher's name. Or had they actually married? Nathan had so many questions, but they would have to wait. He grabbed a blanket from the threadbare couch and covered Sarah, then turned to the twins. They were watching with huge, terrified eyes. These children, his nieces, had been living here, in this place, alone with a sick mother and no help, while he'd been in his penthouse signing merger deals. The guilt hit him like a physical blow. "Is Mommy going to die?" Mia asked. And the question was so small, so scared, that Nathan made a decision that would change everything. "No," he said firmly, pulling both girls into his arms. They came willingly, desperate for comfort. "No, sweetheart. I promise you everything is going to be okay now. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." He had no idea if he could keep that promise. But looking at these two little girls, Christopher's daughters, his family, Nathan Brooks knew his life had just been divided into before and after this moment. The sirens were getting closer, echoing up through the rain-soaked night. And for the first time in 3 years, Nathan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The emergency room at Mercy General was a familiar place to Nathan. Brooks Industries had donated the entire pediatric wing, but he'd never been there as anything other than a check-writing benefactor. Now he sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, watching 2 4-year-old girls sleep on either side of him, their small bodies curled up in the oversized scrubs the nurses had found for them after cutting away their wet dresses. A doctor approached, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and tired features. Dr. Patricia Chen, according to her badge. She'd been the one to examine Sarah. "Mr. Brooks," she said quietly, gesturing for him to follow her a few feet away. Nathan carefully extracted himself from between the twins, making sure they stayed asleep. "How is she?" he asked. "Severe pneumonia complicated by malnutrition and exhaustion," Dr. Chen said bluntly. "Her immune system is severely compromised. We're running more tests, but I need to ask you some questions. You said you're her brother-in-law?" "My brother Christopher was her husband, I think. I didn't know about her or the girls until tonight." Dr. Chen's expression shifted to something between sympathy and concern. "Then you should know that Sarah has been fighting this illness for at least 2 weeks based on the progression. She's been filling prescriptions at 3 different pharmacies, paying cash, getting the cheapest generic antibiotics. None of them were strong enough for what she has. Why wouldn't she go to a hospital? No insurance, I'd guess. And afraid of what would happen to her daughters if she was admitted. The social worker is already asking questions about the living conditions." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Those girls are not going into the system. That's not your decision, Mr. Brooks. Unless you have legal custody, then I'll get it." And he pulled out his phone, scrolling to his lawyer's number despite the late hour. Whatever it takes, they're family. Dr. Chen studied him for a long moment. Sarah was asking for someone when she regained consciousness briefly. She was confused, feverish, but she kept saying, "Protect the girls," over and over. Do you know what she might have been afraid of? Nathan thought of the poverty he'd seen, the locked door, the children eating from trash. No, but I'm going to find out. He spent the next 3 hours making calls. His lawyer, Kenneth, grumbling but effective, started the process for emergency custody. His assistant, Victoria, began researching Sarah's background despite the late hour, and Nathan himself pulled strings to get Sarah moved to a private room and ensure the twins could stay with her. By dawn, he had some answers, and they raised more questions than they solved. Sarah Matthews, she'd never legally married Christopher, though she'd taken his name, had been a nurse before the twins were born. She'd met Christopher at the community clinic where he'd volunteered, teaching science to underprivileged kids. They'd fallen in love fast, according to the few records Victoria could find. But Sarah's nursing license had lapsed after the girls were born, and she'd been working cash jobs ever since. Housekeeping, waitressing, whatever she could do while caring for 2 small children alone. There's something else, Victoria said when she called with her final report. Christopher had a life insurance policy. $500,000. Sarah was listed as the beneficiary. Nathan frowned. She never claimed it? The paperwork was processed the day Christopher died. The insurance company has been trying to reach her for 3 years, but every letter came back undeliverable. She moved 4 times in 3 years, always paying cash for rent, never leaving a forwarding address. They had no way to find her. Why would she run like that? Nathan murmured. Why hide? I don't know yet, but Nathan, there's something else. I found a sealed court record from 6 years ago, before she met Christopher. I can't access it without a warrant, but it exists. Sarah was involved in something legal. Could be a lawsuit, could be criminal. I can't tell. Nathan's mind raced. What was Sarah hiding from, and did it matter? Looking at the bedroom where 2 innocent girls slept, he decided it didn't. Whatever Sarah's past held, she'd loved Christopher and she loved those girls. That was enough. "Keep digging, but carefully," he said. "I don't want Sarah to feel like we're investigating her." "We are investigating her. We're protecting our family," Nathan corrected. "There's a difference." After he hung up, Nathan stood at his window, watching the sun begin to rise over the city. In a few hours, he'd take the girls to see their mother. He'd face Sarah's suspicion and hostility. He'd begin the complicated process of weaving these three people into his life. And somewhere in the middle of all that, he'd figure out why the thought of Sarah Brooks made his heart beat faster. It was inappropriate. She was Christopher's widow, or whatever she was. She was sick, vulnerable, probably hated him. But when she'd looked at him yesterday with those fierce eyes defending her daughters like a lioness, Nathan had felt something shift inside him. He'd spent 3 years building walls, making money, avoiding emotions. In one night, 2 small girls and their fierce mother had demolished every defense he had. "Uncle Nathan?" Mia tugged on his sleeve. "I had a bad dream." Nathan crossed to her immediately, scooping her up. "It's okay. You're safe now. I've got you." She wrapped her small arms around his neck and whispered, "I dreamed Mommy didn't wake up. Like Daddy didn't wake up." "Your mommy is going to be fine," Nathan promised. "I won't let anything happen to her, or to you, or to your sister. Do you believe me?" Mia pulled back to study his face with those impossibly blue eyes, Christopher's eyes. Then she nodded solemnly. "Okay, I believe you." Such simple trust, such faith. Nathan carried her back to bed, tucking both girls in once more. As he watched them sleep, he made a silent vow. He would keep them safe, all 3 of them. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, even if it meant facing the ghosts of his past and the walls he'd built around his heart. The Brooks family was about to get a lot more complicated. And Nathan was about to discover that sometimes, the best things in life come wrapped in the most unexpected packages, like a desperate phone call in the rain, and 2 little girls who called him Daddy. The penthouse was utterly silent when Nathan carried a sleeping Madison through the door, with Mia drowsing against his shoulder. The drive from the hospital had taken less than 20 minutes, but both girls had crashed halfway through, exhausted from the emotional marathon of the past day. Victoria had worked miracles in the few hours since his call. One of his 3 guest rooms had been transformed into a children's paradise. Twin beds with princess canopies, stuffed animals arranged on shelves, a toy chest overflowing with dolls and games. It was overwhelming and probably excessive, but Nathan had told her to spare no expense. Now, looking at the room through the girls' eyes, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. Would they feel out of place here? Would they miss their small, cramped apartment despite its poverty? "Wow," Mia breathed, suddenly wide awake as Nathan set Madison on one of the beds. "Is this really for us?" "All yours," Nathan said. "For as long as you need it." Madison sat up, rubbing her eyes, then gasped. "It's like a castle." They spent the next hour exploring. Nathan showed them the bathroom, where they stared in awe at the marble and the bathtub big enough for both of them, and then took them to the kitchen where his private chef, Helena, had prepared a feast. "I wasn't sure what children eat," Helena admitted in her slight Portuguese accent, "so I made options." Options included chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, pizza, hamburgers, fruit salad, vegetables with ranch, and cookies. The twins' eyes went wide. "Can we really eat all this?" Mia whispered. The question broke Nathan's heart. "You can eat whatever you want, sweetheart. And if you're still hungry after, we'll make more." They ate like they were starving, which Nathan realized with growing anger. They probably were. Sarah had been sick for weeks. How long had the girls been going hungry? After dinner, he ran them a bath. Neither girl knew how to swim, so they were nervous about the deep tub. But with reassurance and a pile of rubber ducks Victoria had somehow acquired, they were soon giggling and splashing. Nathan sat on the bathroom floor, supervising and marveling at how quickly his life had shifted. Yesterday, his biggest concern had been a merger. Today, he was learning that Mia liked Bubbles, but Madison didn't, that they both hated having their hair washed, and that they could recite the entire alphabet song in perfect harmony. "Did your mommy teach you that?" he asked as he wrapped them in towels soft enough to cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. "Daddy did," Madison said proudly. "Before he went to heaven, Mommy showed us videos on her phone. He sang funny." Nathan's throat tightened. Christopher had made videos. There were recordings of his brother that Nathan had never seen. "Could I see those videos sometime?" Both girls looked uncertain. "Mommy's phone broke," Mia said quietly. "Last month. She cried when it stopped working. We had to get the new one from the church lady, but it doesn't have our pictures." Another wave of anger and sorrow. Sarah had lost the last traces of Christopher, and she'd been too poor to retrieve them or back them up. "We'll get them back," Nathan promised, making a mental note to call every data recovery specialist in the city. "I promise." After pajamas, Disney princesses that Victoria had guessed the right size for, Nathan tucked both girls into their beds. They looked so small in the large room, so vulnerable. "Can we call Mommy?" Madison asked, clutching a stuffed elephant. "The hospital said she's sleeping, but we'll call first thing in the morning," Nathan promised. "Dr. Chen says she's doing much better already." "Uncle Nathan?" Mia's voice was tiny. "Are you going to leave us too, like Daddy did?" The question sucker punched him. "Oh, sweetheart, no. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right down the hall. If you need anything at all, you just call for me, okay?" "Promise?" Both girls asked in unison. "I promise." He left the door cracked and the hallway light on, then retreated to his study. Kenneth was waiting on a video call, looking exhausted. "This is a legal nightmare," his lawyer said bluntly. "You have no custody rights. Sarah could change her mind tomorrow and you'd have to hand them over. And the state could decide she's an unfit mother and take them into foster care before you can file for guardianship." "Then work faster," Nathan snapped. "I don't care what it costs. Those girls are not going into the system. Nathan, be reasonable. You're a single man with a demanding career. The courts aren't going to just hand you 2 children because you're rich and well-meaning. I'm their uncle, their only family. That you know of. We need to verify Sarah's background. Does she have family? Parents who might claim the girls? Victoria's already on it. And there's another issue." Kenneth hesitated. "The girls have been living in poverty for 3 years. Child Protective Services could argue that Sarah is neglectful. If that happens, you're not going to be able to just adopt them. There's a process. Home studies, interviews, background checks. Then start the process. This will take months, Nathan, maybe years." "I don't care." Kenneth sighed. "There's also the matter of your brother's life insurance. If Sarah is entitled to that money, and she is, she could use it to disappear with the girls. You'd have no legal recourse." Nathan had thought of that. "Then we need to make sure she doesn't want to disappear." "How?" "Good question. How did you convince a woman who clearly hated you to trust you with her children? A woman who had every reason to resent your family and everything you stood for?" "I'll figure it out," Nathan said. "Just get the custody paperwork started. Emergency guardianship, whatever it takes to make sure those girls are protected if Sarah—" He couldn't finish the thought. "If Sarah dies," Kenneth finished bluntly, "you need to think about that possibility. She's very sick. If something happens to her, those girls become wards of the state unless you have legal standing." The thought made Nathan's blood run cold. "Then make it happen. Tonight." After Kenneth hung up, Nathan sat in the darkness of his study, staring at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Sarah was lying in a hospital bed, fighting pneumonia, and probably terrified about what he might do with her daughters. He needed to earn her trust. But how? His thoughts were interrupted by a small sound from the hallway. Nathan went to investigate and found both girls standing outside their door, looking lost. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. They shook their heads in unison. "Too quiet?" Nathan guessed. The penthouse was soundproofed, nothing like the noisy apartment building they were used to. Madison nodded. "And too dark, and too big, and we're scared." Nathan made a decision. "Come on." He led them to his master bedroom, a space he normally kept private and pristine, and pulled back the covers on his California king bed. "How about you sleep here tonight just until you get used to the new place?" The girls scrambled into the bed, burrowing under the covers. Nathan climbed in on the other side, suddenly aware of how surreal this moment was. Yesterday, he'd slept alone as he had every night for 3 years. Tonight, he had 2 4-year-old girls taking up residence in his bed. "Uncle Nathan?" Mia whispered in the darkness. "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for saving us." His heart clenched. "You saved yourselves by being brave enough to call for help. Mommy told us to always be brave," Madison added sleepily. "Like Daddy was. She said Daddy wasn't scared of anything." Nathan thought about his brother, who'd walked away from wealth to teach chemistry to kids in underprivileged neighborhoods, who'd fallen in love with a nurse and had twins and apparently never told his family because Nathan had made it clear he wouldn't approve. Christopher had been brave and Nathan had been blind. "Your daddy was the bravest person I knew," he said quietly. "And you girls are just like him." Within minutes, both twins were asleep, curled up on either side of him like puppies. Nathan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and felt the weight of responsibility settle over him like a blanket. He'd made promises tonight to the girls, to Sarah, to Christopher's memory, and Nathan Brooks didn't break his promises. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Found Sarah's background. "You need to see this." Calling in 5. Nathan carefully extracted himself from between the sleeping girls and took the call in his study. "Tell me," he said without preamble. "Sarah Matthews grew up in foster care," Victoria said. "Bounced between 6 homes before aging out of the system at 18. No family. She put herself through nursing school working 3 jobs. Met your brother at a free clinic where she was volunteering. They dated for 2 years before she got pregnant. And after Christopher died, she tried to keep working as a nurse, but childcare was too expensive for twins. She lost her apartment, moved to cheaper places, kept downgrading. The Riverside apartment is the 4th place she's lived in 3 years. Each one worse than the last. Why didn't she claim the insurance money?" Victoria's voice turned somber. She didn't know about it. Christopher updated his policy the week before he died. The paperwork was finalized the day of the accident. The insurance company sent all notifications to the address they had on file, the apartment Sarah shared with Christopher, but she'd already lost that place by the time the letters arrived. She never knew the money existed. Nathan closed his eyes. Christopher had tried to take care of them. He'd updated his policy, made sure Sarah and the girls would be provided for, but he died before he could tell Sarah about it. "There's something else," Victoria continued. "I found the sealed court record. Nathan, Sarah was a victim, not a perpetrator. 6 years ago, she was assaulted by a patient at the hospital where she worked. She filed charges and won the case, but it destroyed her career." Nathan felt ice flood his veins. "Who was he?" "Richard Pemberton, real estate developer. Very wealthy, very connected. After Sarah won her case, he made her life hell. Harassment, intimidation. She filed restraining orders, but he was always careful to use intermediaries. It got so bad she had to leave nursing entirely. And then she met Christopher. Yes, I think she saw him as a way to start over. Someone who didn't know about Pemberton, who didn't see her as damaged goods. When Christopher died, she didn't reach out to your family because I'd made it clear I thought she was after Christopher's money," Nathan finished bitterly. He remembered their last conversation, the things he'd said about Sarah without ever meeting her. "She was protecting herself and the girls the only way she knew how," Victoria said. "By staying invisible, staying off Pemberton's radar. She couldn't risk claiming the insurance money because it would have made her visible again." Nathan's hands clenched. "Is Pemberton still a threat?" "I don't know. But Nathan, if he finds out about Sarah's connection to your family to all this money, he'll come after her." "Yes. Then we need to be ready." Nathan's voice turned to steel. "Get me everything we have on Pemberton. I want to know every skeleton in his closet. If he so much as looks at Sarah or those girls wrong, I want ammunition to destroy him." After Victoria hung up, Nathan stood at the window, looking out at the city. The sky was beginning to lighten with dawn. Christopher had loved Sarah, had chosen her, built a life with her, tried to provide for her even in death. And Nathan had judged her without knowing her story. He went back to the bedroom where both girls were still sleeping peacefully. As he climbed back into bed, Madison stirred and reached for his hand. "Safe now," she murmured in her sleep. Nathan's throat tightened. "Yes, baby, you're safe now, I promise." And he meant it. Whatever storms were coming, Pemberton, legal battles, Sarah's justified anger, Nathan would face them all. Because these three people were his family now. And he protected what was his. The week that followed tested every skill Nathan had acquired in his 38 years. Running a billion-dollar pharmaceutical company suddenly seemed simple compared to navigating the needs of two 4-year-old girls. Day 1. Madison threw up the fancy breakfast Helena prepared because it looked weird. Mia cried for an hour because her favorite stuffed elephant fell behind the bed and she thought it was lost forever. Nathan learned that children had the lung capacity of opera singers when distressed. Day 2. Both girls refused to wear the designer clothes Victoria had purchased because they were too scratchy. Nathan ended up buying every soft cotton dress in the children's department at Target, a store he'd never entered before in his life. The cashier recognized him and looked confused. He didn't care. Day 3. The girls wanted to visit Sarah at the hospital, but Madison had a meltdown in the lobby because she was scared of the medicine smell. Nathan ended up carrying both twins through the corridors while they sobbed. Other visitors stared. He ignored them. But there were also moments that made his heart expand in ways he didn't know were possible. Like when Mia learned to write her name and insisted on signing every document on his desk with crayon. Or when Madison created an elaborate tea party for his business associates during a video conference, and they all played along, captains of industry pretending to sip imaginary tea. Or when both girls fell asleep on his lap while he read them bedtime stories, their small bodies trusting and warm. Sarah's reactions to these visits were complicated. She was healing. The antibiotics and rest were working miracles. But her emotions seemed torn between gratitude and resentment every time Nathan brought the girls to see her. "They're wearing designer clothes," she said on day 4, her voice tight as she hugged Madison. "They're wearing comfortable clothes," Nathan corrected. "The brand doesn't matter. Everything has a brand with people like you. People like me. Rich people. People who think money solves everything." Sarah's green eyes flashed. "You can't buy their love, Nathan. I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm trying to give them what they need. What they need is their mother. What they need is for their mother to get well," Nathan said firmly. "Which you can't do if you're worried about them. Let me help. Please." It was the please that seemed to break through her defenses, if only slightly. Sarah's shoulders sagged. "I hate this. I hate being helpless. I hate that they're seeing me like this." "They don't see weak. They see brave," Nathan said quietly. "You fought for them alone for 3 years. You kept them fed and clothed and safe despite everything. That's not weakness, Sarah. That's strength." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and for a moment something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition that they were both trying their best in an impossible situation. Then the moment broke, and Sarah looked away. "Just keep them safe. That's all I ask." "I will." On day 5, Victoria came to Nathan's office with information that changed everything. "I found out about the sealed record," she said, closing the door behind her. "I called in a favor with a judge. Nathan, Sarah was a victim, not a perpetrator. 6 years ago, she was assaulted by a wealthy patient at the hospital where she worked. She filed charges. He had powerful lawyers and tried to pay her off. She refused. The case went to trial and she won, but the settlement was sealed to protect her privacy." Nathan felt ice flood his veins. The man who assaulted her, Richard Pemberton, real estate mogul, he's still operating in the city. Victoria's face was grim. "Nathan, there's more. Pemberton made threats during the trial. Said if Sarah ever tried to work in healthcare again, he'd destroy her career. After she won, she started getting harassed. Phone calls, letters. Someone followed her home from work. She filed restraining orders, but nothing stuck because he was careful to use intermediaries. And then she met Christopher. Yes, about 6 months after the trial concluded. I think she saw Christopher as a fresh start. A way to disappear from Pemberton's radar. She stopped using her full name professionally, took jobs that kept her under the radar. When Christopher died, and she had the twins to protect, Victoria trailed off. Nathan's mind raced. She's been hiding, not from us, from him. That's my theory. If Pemberton found out about the insurance money, about her connection to the Brooks family, he might see it as an opportunity to finish what he started. Harassment, intimidation, maybe worse. We need to tell Sarah we know. Are you sure that's wise? She's kept this secret for years. She might see it as a violation of her privacy. Nathan thought about Sarah's fierce independence, her refusal to accept help, her determination to protect her daughters at all costs. Victoria was right. Sarah would hate knowing they'd investigated her past. But the girls' safety came first. Set up a meeting with our head of security, Nathan said. I want background checks on Pemberton, surveillance on his current activities, and a protection detail on Sarah and the girls. Discreet, but thorough. Nathan, this is going to cost. I don't care what it costs. His voice was steel. No one threatens my family. Victoria smiled slightly. Your family. You're really all in on this, aren't you? Completely. That evening, Nathan took the girls to visit Sarah again. She was sitting up in bed looking stronger. The color had returned to her face and the IV had been removed. Dr. Chen said she might be discharged in 2 days if she continued improving. Mommy! The twins rushed to her, climbing onto the bed with the ease of long practice. Sarah hugged them close, breathing in their little girl scent of strawberry shampoo and innocence. Then she looked at Nathan over their heads, and something in her expression had softened. Thank you, she said quietly, for taking care of them. It's been my pleasure. And Nathan realized it was true. The past week had been chaotic and exhausting and completely wonderful. They talk about you constantly. Uncle Nathan this, Uncle Nathan that. You've won them over. They're easy to love. Sarah's eyes searched his face. Why are you doing this? Really? Is it guilt about Christopher? Obligation? What do you get out of this? Nathan considered his answer carefully. The truth was complicated. Yes, there was guilt about his estrangement from Christopher. Yes, there was obligation to family. But there was also something else. Something he was only beginning to understand. I get a second chance, he said finally. To be the brother I should have been. To know my nieces. To make Christopher proud instead of disappointed. Christopher wasn't disappointed in you, Sarah said softly. He talked about you all the time. He loved you. He just wished you could see that there was more to life than business. The words hit hard. He told you about our fights? Everyone. But he also told me about when you were kids. How you protected him from bullies. How you helped him with his homework. How you were the first person he came out to. Sarah stopped abruptly. Nathan's eyebrows rose. Came out to? Sarah's face went pale. I thought, didn't you know? Know what? She bit her lip, clearly debating whether to continue. Then she sighed. Christopher was gay, Nathan. I thought he'd told you. The world tilted sideways. But you two, the girls, we were best friends who wanted a family. Christopher wanted children but knew he'd never find acceptance in your world if he came out publicly. And I wanted children but was too traumatized after the assault to consider dating. We made a family the way that worked for us. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. He was going to tell you, after the girls were born and things settled, he wanted you to know the real him. But then the accident. Nathan sat down heavily in the visitor's chair. Christopher, gay, living a lie to protect himself from their father's judgment. And Nathan had never even suspected, too wrapped up in his own world to see his brother's truth. I failed him even more than I thought, he said hoarsely. No. Sarah's voice was fierce. Christopher chose his path. He made his decisions. You didn't force him into anything. He told me how much pressure you were under when your father died, how you had to take over the company at 18. He didn't want to add to your burden. I could have made it easier. I could have been someone he felt safe confiding in. You were both doing the best you could, Sarah said gently. Christopher never blamed you. He loved you, Nathan. Right up until the end. They sat in silence for a moment, the twins playing quietly with stuffed animals Nathan had brought. There's something else you should know, Nathan said slowly. About why you couldn't claim Christopher's insurance. He told her about the investigation. About how Christopher had updated his policy the week before he died, making her and the girls the beneficiaries. About how the paperwork was finalized the day of his accident. About how the insurance company had been trying to reach her for 3 years, but every letter went to addresses she'd already left. Sarah's hands clenched in the hospital blanket. You investigated me. I needed to know if you or the girls were in danger. You had no right. I had every right. You're Christopher's family, and I know about Pemberton. Her face went white. How? Victoria found the court records. Sarah, I know what he did to you. I know about the harassment. I know why you've been hiding. Nathan leaned forward. And I'm telling you right now, you don't have to hide anymore. I have resources, security, lawyers who can bury Pemberton in litigation if he so much as looks at you wrong. You can't fight people like him with money, Nathan. They always find a way. And then we'll find a better way. Together. He reached for her hand, then stopped himself. Let me help you, Sarah. Really help. Not just for a week. Let me set you up in a safe apartment. Let me hire protection. Let me ensure the girls have everything they need while you get back on your feet. And then what? I'm just another Brooks charity case? No, you're Christopher's family, which makes you mine. I can take care of myself. I know you can. You've proven that for 3 years. But you don't have to anymore. That's what I'm offering. Not charity, partnership, family. Sarah looked at the twins who were now curled up on either side of her half asleep. What do you want in return? Nothing, except maybe the chance to be part of their lives, to be the uncle they deserve. And if I say no, then I'll respect your decision, but I'll still make sure you're safe. I'll still help you get the insurance money Christopher wanted you to have. I'll still be here if you need me. Nathan met her eyes. Because that's what family does. Sarah studied him for a long moment. Nathan could see the war raging behind her eyes, the fierce independence that had kept her alive versus the desperate need for help she'd been denying for years. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but we do this my way. I'm not moving into your penthouse. I'm not accepting a blank check. I want my own place, my own life. And the girls come home to me as soon as I'm well enough. Agreed. And I want to pay you back for everything. It might take time, but I will. Sarah, those are my terms, Nathan. Take them or leave them. He smiled despite himself. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. Christopher used to say I could outstubborn a mule. He was right. Nathan stood preparing to collect the sleeping twins. I'll have Victoria find you some apartment options, safe neighborhoods, good schools nearby. You can choose which one you want. Thank you. The words seemed to cost her, but she said them anyway. As Nathan carefully lifted Madison, Sarah reached out and touched his arm. Nathan? Christopher would be proud of you for what you're doing for us. I thought you should know that. The words hit him like a blow to the chest. Nathan nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and carried the girls out. In the elevator, with both twins sleeping against his shoulders, Nathan let himself acknowledge the truth he'd been avoiding all week. He was falling for Sarah Brooks, not just for her beauty or her strength, though she had both in abundance, but for her fierce love for her daughters, for her refusal to be broken despite everything life had thrown at her, for the way she'd loved his brother enough to give him the family he'd wanted, even though she couldn't have him the way society expected. It was impossible, inappropriate, completely insane. She was Christopher's widow in every way that mattered, if not legally. She was vulnerable, sick, financially dependent on him. Any move he made would be an abuse of power. But when she'd touched his arm and told him Christopher would be proud, Nathan had wanted nothing more than to pull her into his arms and promise her that everything would be okay. Uncle Nathan? Mia stirred against his shoulder. Are you sad? No, sweetheart, just thinking. About Mommy? Smart girl. Yes. She's pretty, isn't she? Nathan smiled. Very pretty. And nice. Even when she's sick, she's nice. The nicest. Do you like her? Madison piped up, apparently not as asleep as he'd thought. I do. Good, 'cause we like you. And if you like Mommy and she likes you, then maybe you could be our new daddy. Nathan's heart stopped. It's not that simple, sweetie. Why not? You're already doing daddy things. You read us stories and make us breakfast and give us hugs when we're sad. That's what daddies do. Out of the mouths of babes. Nathan didn't have an answer for that. Back at the penthouse, he tucked both girls into their beds. They'd finally agreed to sleep in the princess room and retreated to his study. Kenneth was waiting on video chat with updates on the custody paperwork. It was proceeding, but slowly. The courts wanted home studies, background checks, references. It would be months before Nathan had any legal standing. Unless Sarah agrees to let you formally adopt them, Kenneth said. If she signs over parental rights voluntarily, it speeds up the process considerably. She'll never do that. Then you're looking at a long legal battle, and Nathan, there's something else. If Sarah recovers fully and wants to take the girls back, you have no grounds to stop her. You're not their legal guardian, you're just temporary emergency housing. I know. Do you? Because you're getting attached. I can see it. And when Sarah is well and wants her daughters back, you're going to have to let them go. Nathan stared at the city lights. What if I don't want to let them go? Then you're heading for heartbreak. Or a legal battle that will traumatize everyone involved, especially the girls. Kenneth was right. Nathan knew he was right. But the thought of Mia and Madison leaving, of going back to their life of poverty and fear while he went back to his lonely penthouse, was unbearable. He'd spent 1 week with them. 1 week. And already they'd changed everything. What if I convinced Sarah to stay? Nathan asked slowly. Not in the penthouse, but nearby. What if I helped her get back on her feet, supported her, became a real part of their lives? Would that work? Legally, you'd still have no custody rights. But practically, it might be the best solution. Kenneth paused. Nathan, are you sure you're thinking clearly about this, about Sarah? What do you mean? I mean, she's beautiful, she's vulnerable. You're the hero who rescued her. It's a classic savior complex situation. Don't mistake gratitude and proximity for something more. Nathan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because Kenneth might be right. He'd known Sarah for less than a week. She'd been sick for most of it. He had no idea who she really was beyond the fierce mother fighting for her children. Maybe what he felt was just the novelty of having people need him for something other than money. Maybe it was guilt about Christopher manifesting as attraction. Maybe it was the simple biological response to a beautiful woman. Or maybe it was real. I'll be careful, Nathan promised. But I'm not backing away from this family. They need me. Just make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, Kenneth said. For them, not for you. After the call ended, Nathan found himself standing in the doorway of the girls' room watching them sleep. Madison was sprawled across her bed like a starfish. Mia was curled up with her elephant thumb in her mouth. They were so small, so innocent, so utterly dependent on the adults in their lives to keep them safe. Christopher had failed them by dying. Sarah had failed them, through no fault of her own, by getting sick. The system had failed them by letting them slip through the cracks into poverty. Nathan wouldn't fail them, whatever it took, whatever it cost. Even if it meant watching Sarah take them away when she was well. Even if it meant his heart breaking in the process. He'd survive. He always did. But first, he'd make sure they thrived. That was the promise he'd made. And Nathan Brooks kept his promises. Sarah was discharged from the hospital on a sunny Tuesday morning, exactly 9 days after the twins' desperate phone call. Nathan arrived to pick her up with both girls, who'd insisted on making a Welcome Home Mommy banner that was now draped across the back seat of his Mercedes. She looked better, healthier, stronger, but there was wariness in her eyes when she saw him, like she was bracing for a battle. Ready to see your new place? Nathan asked, deliberately keeping his tone light. Sarah's jaw tightened. I told you I'd choose the apartment. You did. Victoria sent you 3 options. You picked the one in Riverside Heights. Because it was the cheapest. Because it was the one you liked, Nathan corrected gently. The neighborhood, the schools, the park nearby. Those were your reasons. She couldn't argue with that, so she climbed into the car in silence. The twins chattered nonstop during the drive, telling her about everything she'd missed. The aquarium, the princess room, the time Madison fell in the fountain at the park and Uncle Nathan had to fish her out. Nathan watched Sarah in the rearview mirror, saw her smile despite herself, saw her relax incrementally as the girl's joy became infectious. The apartment building in Riverside Heights was nice, not luxury but clean and safe. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, a small balcony overlooking a community garden. It was on the 3rd floor of a building with security cameras and a doorman. Sarah's eyes went wide when she saw it. Nathan, this is too much. It's perfect. Come on. The girls are dying to show you the furniture Victoria picked out. The apartment had been furnished simply but comfortably. A couch, beds, kitchen table, everything a family might need. Nothing ostentatious. Nathan had specifically instructed Victoria to make it feel like a home, not a showpiece. The twins dragged Sarah from room to room, showing her their shared bedroom with the window seat, the bathroom with the pretty tiles, the kitchen with the refrigerator that was, for the first time in their lives, actually full of food. And look, Mommy. Mia threw open a closet. We have our own closet with our own clothes and they're all soft and pretty. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She turned away, trying to hide them, but Nathan saw. Girls, why don't you go play in your room for a minute? He suggested. Mommy and I need to talk. Once they were alone, Sarah rounded on him. This is too much. The rent on this place has to be thousands a month. I can't afford. The first year is paid, Nathan said calmly. Think of it as Christopher's insurance money finally reaching you. I told you I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's family helping family. There's a difference. Is there? Sarah's voice broke. Because from where I'm standing, it feels like you're buying us. Buying the girl's affection. Buying your way out of guilt. The words stung because there was a kernel of truth in them. Is that really what you think? Sarah sank onto the couch, suddenly looking exhausted. I don't know what to think. A week ago I was dying in a hospital bed, terrified I'd lose my daughters to the system. Now I'm in a beautiful apartment I could never afford. My girls are healthy and happy, and you're... She gestured helplessly. You're everywhere, in every decision, every moment. I don't know how to be grateful and resentful at the same time, but here we are. Nathan sat down across from her, maintaining distance. What can I do to make this easier? Stop being so perfect. The outburst surprised them both. Sarah laughed bitterly. Stop being the hero. Stop solving every problem. Stop making me feel like I failed my daughters when all I've done for 3 years is try to keep them alive. You didn't fail them. You saved them. Everything you did, the sacrifices, the struggles, the hiding, it was all to protect them. I know about Pemberton, Sarah. I know why you've been running. Her face went white. You had no right. I had every right to protect my family. And you needed protection whether you wanted to admit it or not. Your family, she repeated bitterly. We're not your family, Nathan. We're your brother's widow and children. There's a difference. Not to me. They stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken tension. Nathan could see Sarah fighting against her own emotions, gratitude warring with pride, fear battling hope. I need you to understand something, she said finally, her voice shaking. I loved your brother. He was my best friend, my partner, the father of my children. And I know you think I'm some tragic widow who needs rescuing, but I'm not. I'm a survivor. I've been taking care of myself since I was 14 years old. I don't know how to let someone else do it. I'm not asking you to stop being strong. I'm asking you to let me stand beside you instead of always standing alone. Why? The question was raw, vulnerable. Why do you care so much? You didn't even know we existed 2 weeks ago. Because I'm falling in love with you. The truth hit Nathan like a lightning bolt, but he couldn't say it. Not now. Not when she was fragile and dependent on him. Because Christopher would want me to, he said instead. It was true, if not the whole truth. Because the girls deserve better than what you were able to give them alone. Because you deserve a chance to heal and rebuild without constantly looking over your shoulder. Sarah's face crumpled. I hate this. I hate needing help. I hate that I couldn't do it alone. No one should have to do it alone. That's not weakness, Sarah, it's human. She cried then, really cried, and Nathan moved to sit beside her. He didn't touch her, didn't trust himself to, but he was there, present, while she released 3 years of pain and fear and exhaustion. When the tears finally subsided, Sarah wiped her eyes and laughed shakily. Sorry, I've been holding that in for a while. Don't apologize. The girls are fine, they're playing. They can't hear us. Sarah took a shaky breath. Okay. Here's what I need. I need boundaries. I need to know that this apartment, these things, they're really mine. Not loans I have to pay back. Not strings attached. Mine. They're yours. And I need to get back to work. I can't sit here being supported indefinitely. I need purpose, income, independence. Your nursing license is still valid. I checked. And Brooks Industries has a medical division that's always looking for qualified nurses. The pay is competitive and the hours can be flexible for parents. Sarah's eyes narrowed. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. You interview like anyone else. You get hired on your own merits. But yes, I can make sure your application gets seen. That's nepotism. That's networking. Welcome to how the world actually works. She wanted to argue. He could see it in her face, but practicality won out. Fine, set up the interview. But if I get the job, I'm paying rent on this apartment. Absolutely not. The apartment is a gift. Nathan, non-negotiable, but you can pay for groceries, utilities, whatever makes you feel independent. Deal? Sarah studied him for a long moment. Why are you doing this? And don't give me the Christopher excuse. This is about more than him. I can see it in your eyes. Nathan's heart hammered. This was the moment. He could tell her the truth, that he was falling for her, that the thought of her leaving made him physically ache, that he wanted to be part of her life not out of obligation but out of desire. But she wasn't ready. She needed time to heal, to rebuild, to stand on her own feet before she could make clear decisions about her future. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply, and because the girls deserve stability. That's enough reason for now. Sarah didn't look entirely convinced, but she nodded. Okay, we'll try this. Your way, for now. But Nathan, if you hurt those girls, if you get them attached to you and then disappear when this gets too complicated or uncomfortable, I will make your life hell. Understood? Understood. Good. She stood, smoothing her clothes. Now I should probably go reassure my daughters that Mommy is okay and this is really our new home. As she walked toward the girls' room, Nathan's phone buzzed. A text from his head of security, Pemberton spotted near Brooks Medical Center. He's asking questions about new hires. He knows something. Ice flooded Nathan's veins. He'd hoped they'd have more time before Pemberton discovered Sarah's connection to him. But apparently the man had his own investigators. He needed to tell Sarah. But not today. She'd just gotten out of the hospital. She needed to focus on recovery and the girls. Tomorrow. He'd tell her tomorrow and they'd make a plan. For now, he watched through the doorway as Sarah sat on the floor with Mia and Madison, all three of them laughing about something. The girls were showing her a book they'd picked out, talking over each other in their excitement. This was what family looked like, what Christopher had wanted. What Nathan had been missing for 3 years without even knowing it. He'd protect it. Protect them. Whatever it took. Even if it meant facing down Richard Pemberton and every lawyer he could afford. Even if it meant acknowledging the growing feelings he had for Sarah. Feelings that complicated everything. Even if it meant risking his heart on a family that might not want him once they didn't need him anymore. Nathan Brooks had built an empire on calculated risks. Time to take the biggest gamble of his life. On love. On family. On the possibility that sometimes the best things come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. Like 2 little girls calling for their daddy in the rain. And the fierce woman who'd raised them alone. 3 months later, Nathan sat in his office reviewing quarterly reports and trying to focus on profit margins. It was nearly impossible when his mind kept wandering to Sarah and the girls. The past 12 weeks had been a delicate dance. Sarah had gotten the job at Brooks Medical Center, on her own merits, though Nathan had made sure her application was seen, and was now working 3 days a week. The flexible schedule allowed her to be with the twins the other days, and Nathan had quietly arranged for a top-tier daycare near the hospital for when their schedules overlapped. He saw them regularly. Sunday dinners had become tradition. He took the girls to the park every Saturday while Sarah had what she called me time, though he suspected she spent most of it catching up on sleep and housework. There were school concerts and doctor appointments and 1,000 small moments that made up the fabric of family life. And through it all, Nathan felt himself falling deeper in love with Sarah. She was brilliant at her job. The medical center director had called Nathan personally to praise her skills and compassion. She was an incredible mother, patient and loving, even when exhausted. And slowly, so slowly, she was beginning to trust him. Last week she'd called him when Madison had a fever and she was panicking, not because she needed money or help, but because she needed someone to tell her it would be okay. That was progress. But there were still walls. Sarah kept him at arm's length emotionally, never quite letting him in past the surface. And Nathan knew why. The Pemberton situation. His security team had been tracking the man's movements. Pemberton was getting bolder, asking questions about Sarah, about the twins, about Nathan's involvement with them. He hadn't made direct contact yet, but it was only a matter of time. Nathan had delayed telling Sarah, making excuses. She was settling into her new life. She was happy. Why ruin that with fears that might be unfounded? But today, everything changed. His head of security, Marcus, knocked on the door with an expression that made Nathan's stomach drop. "We have a problem." "Show me." Marcus laid out photos on the desk. Richard Pemberton outside the twins' daycare. Pemberton in the hospital parking lot. Pemberton sitting in a car across from Sarah's apartment building. "He's surveilling them," Marcus said grimly. "Has been for the past week. My team spotted him, but he's being careful. Never close enough to violate the old restraining order, but definitely watching." Nathan's hands clenched into fists. What does he want? Based on our intelligence? Revenge. He's convinced Sarah ruined his reputation. The assault trial cost him business partnerships, social standing. He's been waiting for an opportunity to strike back. And now he's found it. "Sir, there's more. We intercepted communications between Pemberton and his lawyer. They're planning to challenge Sarah's fitness as a mother. They're going to argue that she deceived Christopher about the twins' paternity and used the Brooks connection for financial gain." Nathan's blood ran cold. On what grounds? They've discovered that the twins were conceived via IVF with an anonymous sperm donor. Christopher's name is on the birth certificate, but he's not their biological father. Pemberton thinks he can use that to paint Sarah as manipulative and untrustworthy. He wants to destroy her credibility publicly. But Christopher chose to be their father. He raised them, he loved them. Biology is irrelevant. In the court of law, maybe. But in the court of public opinion? Marcus shook his head. Pemberton's not trying to win custody. He's trying to humiliate Sarah, to make her look like a gold digger who trapped a wealthy man with children that weren't even his. Nathan's vision went red. That's insane. Christopher and Sarah were partners. They made a family together. The circumstances don't change that. I agree. But Pemberton has money and lawyers and no conscience. If he goes public with this, it will be ugly. The media will eat it up. Poor teacher deceived by scheming nurse. Billionaire's brother trapped by fake paternity. Sarah's reputation will be destroyed. Not if we strike first. Nathan's voice turned to steel. Get me everything we have on Pemberton. Every shady business deal, every questionable practice, every skeleton in his closet. I want enough to bury him. Sir, that could take months. Then we don't have months. Nathan made a decision. I'm going to tell Sarah tonight. And then we're going to fight this together. Marcus looked doubtful. She's going to be angry you didn't tell her sooner. I know, but she deserves to know what she's facing. That evening, Nathan arrived at Sarah's apartment with Thai food and a heavy heart. The girls greeted him with their usual enthusiasm, chattering about their day at daycare. Sarah emerged from the kitchen looking tired but content, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing scrubs from her shift. She'd never looked more beautiful. "You're early," she said, checking the time. "We need to talk. After dinner. It's important." Something in his tone made her face fall. "Is it the girls? Are they—" "They're fine, everyone's fine, but there's something you need to know." They made it through dinner, though Nathan barely tasted the food. The twins sensed the tension and were unusually quiet. Sarah put them to bed early, reading extra stories until they finally fell asleep. When she returned to the living room, her arms were crossed defensively. "Okay, talk." Nathan told her everything. Pemberton's surveillance, the investigation into the twins' paternity, the legal threats, all of it. He watched her face go from shock to fury, to fear. "You've known about this for how long?" Her voice was dangerously quiet. "Marcus spotted him a week ago, but we've been tracking his interest in you for months." Months. Sarah stood abruptly, pacing. "You've known for months that the man who assaulted me was looking for me, and you didn't think to mention it?" "I didn't want to worry you. You were just getting back on your feet. That wasn't your decision to make." Her voice rose. "Those are my daughters, Nathan. My life. You had no right to keep this from me. I was trying to protect you." "I don't need your protection. I need the truth." Sarah's hands were shaking. "God, you're just like every other rich man who thinks he knows better, who thinks money and power mean you get to make decisions for everyone else. That's not fair. Isn't it? You've been controlling everything from the beginning. The apartment, the job, the daycare. I thought you were helping, but you were just managing me. Like I'm another business acquisition." Her words hit like physical blows. "Sarah, no, that's not—" "What happens when Pemberton goes to court? When he demands DNA tests and proves the girls aren't biologically Christopher's? What happens to us then?" "Nothing changes. They're still my nieces, still family." "They're not, though, are they? Not by blood, not legally." Sarah's voice broke. "Christopher loved them, raised them, but he's gone. And you're not obligated to us. Not really. You've been playing at being uncle, but when this gets messy, and it will get messy, you'll walk away." "I would never—" "Everyone walks away eventually." Sarah was crying now. "My parents gave me up. Foster families sent me back. The man who assaulted me tried to destroy me. Christopher died and left me alone with 2 babies. Why would you be any different?" Nathan crossed to her, unable to maintain distance anymore. "Because I love you." The words hung in the air like a bomb. Sarah froze. "What?" "I love you. Not Christopher's memory. Not the idea of family. You, Sarah Matthews. The woman who fought alone for 3 years. The woman who raised 2 incredible daughters on nothing but determination and love. The woman who makes me want to be better than I've ever been. Nathan, you can't—" "I can. I do." He took her hands, feeling them tremble. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you're not ready to hear this, but I can't let you think I'd walk away when things get hard. I won't. Not from you. Not from the girls. Not ever." Sarah stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "This is crazy. You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you sing off-key in the shower and the girls giggle about it. I know you cry during animated movies and pretend it's allergies. I know you check on the girls 3 times every night even though they're safe. I know you're scared of thunderstorms, but you never let the twins see it. I know you, Sarah, and I love what I know. I can't—" She pulled away. "This is too much. Everything is too much. Pemberton, the legal threats, and now you—" "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Not now." "No, you should have said it weeks ago, before I started depending on you. Before the girls started calling you Uncle Nathan like you're permanent. Before I started." She stopped abruptly. "Before you started what?" Sarah closed her eyes. "Before I started falling for you too." Nathan's heart nearly stopped. "Sarah." "But it doesn't matter. Don't you see? We can't do this. The girls need stability, not their mother dating their uncle. And Pemberton will use any relationship between us as evidence that I'm unfit. that I'm using the Brooks connection for money. It will destroy any case we have. She was right. Nathan knew she was right. But the thought of walking away now, of pretending these feelings didn't exist, was unbearable. Then we fight Pemberton first. Together. And after, when the dust settles, we figure out the rest. And if we lose? If he takes the girls? He won't. I promise you, Sarah. I will not let that man hurt you or take those children. I'll use every resource I have, every connection, every dollar. He wants a war? He'll get one. Sarah searched his face. Why? Why would you risk everything for us? Because you're my family, all three of you, and I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have scared her. Instead, Sarah stepped closer. We're not yours, Nathan. We can't be. Then let me earn the right to be part of your family. Let me stand with you against Pemberton. Let me prove I'm not going anywhere. They stood inches apart, the air crackling with tension and unspoken desire. Nathan could smell her shampoo, see the gold flecks in her green eyes, feel the heat radiating from her body. If we do this, Sarah whispered, if we fight him together, it has to be as partners, equals. No more secrets. No more protecting me from the truth. Deal. And no matter what happens between us personally, the girls come first. Always. Always. Nathan agreed. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, so what's our plan? Nathan pulled out his phone, texting Marcus to set up a meeting with their legal team for tomorrow. We build a case that makes Pemberton wish he'd never heard your name. We document every moment of his harassment. We prove Christopher intended for you and the girls to be his family regardless of biology. And we make it clear that anyone who threatens the Brooks family will face consequences. The Brooks family, Sarah repeated. Is that what we are? If you'll have us. A small smile tugged at her lips. Christopher would love this. You, playing White Knight. Me, letting someone help for once. He'd say we're both growing. He'd be right. Sarah took a deep breath. Okay, we fight. But Nathan, after this is over, after Pemberton is dealt with, we need to talk. Really talk. About what this is between us. About whether it's real or just adrenaline and proximity. It's real, Nathan said with absolute certainty. At least for me. We'll see. But she was smiling now, and some of the tension had left her shoulders. They spent the next hour strategizing, making lists, planning their attack. And through it all, Nathan felt something shift between them. They were truly partners now. Equals. A team. When he finally left, well past midnight, Sarah walked him to the door. They stood in the doorway, neither quite ready to say goodbye. Thank you, she said softly, for telling me. For fighting with me instead of for me. It means everything. Thank you for giving me another chance after I screwed up. Sarah reached up and touched his cheek gently. Don't make me regret it. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him softly on the lips. It was brief, chaste, but it sent electricity through Nathan's entire body. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Sarah. He walked to his car in a daze, touching his lips where hers had been. The fight with Pemberton would be brutal. There would be court dates and lawyers and probably media attention. It would test everything they were building. But for the first time in 3 years, Nathan felt completely alive. He had a family to protect, a woman to fight for, a future worth building. And as he drove through the city streets toward home, Nathan made a promise to the brother he'd lost and the family he'd found. He would win this battle. He would keep them safe. And when the dust settled, he would spend every day proving he was worthy of Sarah's trust and the girls' love. The Brooks family was about to show Richard Pemberton exactly what happened when you threatened the people Nathan loved. And it wasn't going to be pretty. 2 weeks later, Nathan stood in family court beside Sarah, watching as the judge reviewed the mountain of evidence they'd compiled. Not against Pemberton's paternity claims, those were irrelevant, but against Pemberton himself. Harassment documentation spanning 6 years. Witness statements from Sarah's former colleagues. Financial records showing Pemberton's attempts to bribe officials to make Sarah's restraining orders disappear. Recordings of him making threats. photos of his surveillance outside the daycare in Sarah's apartment. And the final piece? Testimony from 3 other women Pemberton had assaulted over the years. Women who'd been too afraid to come forward until Nathan's legal team found them and offered protection. The twins sat in the gallery with Victoria, coloring quietly, unaware that their entire future hung in the balance. Pemberton's lawyer stood to make his case. Your Honor, Mr. Pemberton is simply concerned about the welfare of 2 children who were fraudulently presented as fraudulently? The judge's voice was sharp. Christopher Brooks signed the birth certificate. He raised these children, he provided for them, he named their mother as his life insurance beneficiary. Where exactly is the fraud, counselor? The children are not biologically irrelevant. The judge cut him off. Paternity was established legally and never contested during Mr. Brooks's lifetime. Your client has no standing to challenge it now. Furthermore, I've reviewed the evidence of Mr. Pemberton's pattern of harassment toward Ms. Matthews. It's extensive and deeply disturbing. She turned her sharp gaze to Pemberton, who sat red-faced at the defense table. Mr. Pemberton, you assaulted this woman 6 years ago. She had the courage to press charges, and you were found guilty. Instead of accepting responsibility, you've spent 6 years trying to destroy her life. That ends today. The judge shuffled papers. I'm issuing a permanent restraining order. You are to have no contact with Ms. Matthews or her children, directly or indirectly. You are not to go within 500 feet of her residence, workplace, or the children's school. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and prosecution to the fullest extent of the law. Pemberton's face went purple with rage, but his lawyer quieted him with a hand on his arm. The judge turned to Sarah with a softer expression. Ms. Matthews, I've also reviewed the documentation regarding Christopher Brooks's life insurance policy. The insurance company has been trying to reach you for 3 years with no success. They're prepared to release the funds immediately, along with 3 years of accumulated interest. You are entitled to every penny, and I see no evidence whatsoever of fraud or deception on your part. You and Mr. Brooks created a family together in the way that worked for you. That's nobody's business but your own. Sarah's knees buckled with relief. Nathan caught her, holding her steady as the judge's gavel fell. Case dismissed, and Mr. Pemberton, if I see you in my courtroom again on anything related to this family, I will hold you in contempt. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Honor, Pemberton's lawyer said quickly, pulling his client toward the exit before he could say something that would make things worse. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Sarah turned to Nathan with tears streaming down her face. We won. You won. This was your fight. I just stood beside you. No. She took his hands. We won. Together. And Nathan? Yeah? I'm ready for that talk now. About what this is between us, because I think I want to find out. Nathan pulled her close right there on the courthouse steps and kissed her the way he'd been dreaming about for months. Deeply, thoroughly, claiming and surrendering all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Sarah laughed. So, I guess that means you're still interested? Completely. Totally. Irrevocably. Good. Because the girls are already planning our wedding. Apparently we're having it in a castle with 1,000 flowers and a puppy as the ring bearer. Nathan laughed, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. Sounds perfect. And as they walked back to where Victoria waited with the twins, Mia and Madison already running toward them shouting, Did we win? Did we win? Nathan realized that Christopher had been right all along. There was more to life than business, more than money and power and success. There was family, love, the simple joy of 2 little girls calling him Uncle Nathan and meaning it, and the fierce, beautiful woman who'd taught him that the strongest foundations weren't built on wealth, but on trust and courage and the willingness to let someone in. Uncle Nathan? Madison tugged his sleeve as he lifted both girls into his arms. Does this mean we get to stay together forever? Nathan looked at Sarah, who nodded with tears of joy in her eyes. Yeah, Princess. Forever. And this time, it was a promise he knew he'd keep. Because some families are born, some are made. And the very best ones are built in the rain, by 2 little girls brave enough to call for help and the adults who answered. 6 months later, Nathan stood in Sarah's apartment, their apartment now, though he'd kept his penthouse for business, watching the chaos of a typical Sunday morning unfold. Mia was trying to teach him how to braid hair with limited success. Madison was in the kitchen with Sarah, helping make pancakes, which mostly meant getting flour everywhere. Music played from the speaker, some children's song about rainbows that Nathan had heard approximately 10,000 times and still couldn't get out of his head. It was loud. It was messy. It was absolutely nothing like his old life. It was perfect. "Uncle Nathan, you're doing it wrong," Mia said, giggling as the braid fell apart for the third time. "I'm trying, sweetheart. Hair is harder than mergers." Sarah appeared in the doorway, covered in flour, Madison on her hip. "Breakfast is almost ready." "And by ready, I mean edible. Possibly." Nathan crossed to her, kissing her softly despite Madison's "ew" of protest. "I'm sure it's perfect. You're a terrible liar, but I love you anyway." "I love you too." The words still felt new, even after months of saying them. Nathan had spent so long building walls around his heart that letting Sarah in had been terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. They weren't married. Not yet. Sarah had wanted to take things slowly, to make sure the foundation was solid before they made it official. Nathan understood. After everything she'd been through, she needed to trust that this was real, that he wasn't going anywhere. But they were building a life together. He spent most nights here now, helping with bedtime routines and school projects and the 1,000 small tasks that came with raising two energetic 4 almost 5-year-olds. His penthouse had become an office space, a place for business meetings and late-night work sessions. This apartment, with its toys scattered across the floor, and children's drawings on the refrigerator and Sarah's nursing textbooks stacked on the coffee table. This was home. "Pancakes are ready," Madison announced importantly. They gathered around the kitchen table, the 4 of them, and Nathan felt a wave of gratitude so intense it took his breath away. This was what Christopher had wanted for him, what his brother had tried to show him by walking away from the family business, that life was about more than profit margins and board meetings. It was about moments like this, messy pancakes and braided hair and the sound of little girls laughing. It was about the woman across the table who'd fought her way through poverty and trauma and never gave up. It was about family, chosen and cherished and protected with everything you had. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked, watching him with those perceptive green eyes. "How lucky I am." "We're the lucky ones," she said softly. "You saved us, Nathan." "No. 2 brave little girls saved all of us when they called for help in the rain." Mia and Madison beamed with pride. After breakfast, while Sarah cleaned up and the girls played, Nathan's phone rang. Victoria, with news about the Brooks Industries' quarterly earnings, record profits. The pharmaceutical division was thriving. The board wanted to discuss expansion plans. A year ago, this call would have consumed his entire day. He would have rushed to the office, spent hours in meetings, made the business his whole world. Now he listened politely, asked Victoria to schedule a meeting for tomorrow, and hung up. Because today was Sunday, family day, and there were more important things than earnings reports, like teaching Mia how to ride the new bike he'd bought her, and reading Madison her favorite story for the 100th time, and stealing quiet moments with Sarah while the girls napped, talking about their future and the life they were building. "Nathan?" Sarah called from the kitchen. "The girls want to go to the park. You coming?" "Wouldn't miss it." As they walked to the park, Mia and Madison running ahead, holding hands, Sarah's fingers intertwined with his, Nathan thought about the phone call that had changed everything. "Daddy, we're eating in the rain." 4 simple words from a terrified little girl who didn't know she was calling a stranger. 4 words that had shattered his carefully constructed life and rebuilt it into something infinitely better. At the park, he pushed the girls on the swings while Sarah sat on a bench, reading a novel and occasionally looking up to watch them with a soft smile. "Higher, Uncle Nathan!" Madison shrieked with delight. "Higher!" Mia echoed. And as Nathan pushed them higher and higher, listening to their laughter ring out across the playground, he made a silent promise to Christopher. "I've got them, brother. All 3 of them. And I'm never letting go. Because sometimes the best inheritance isn't money or property or a family name. Sometimes it's the chance to love people who need you as much as you need them. Sometimes it's two little girls who called you daddy by mistake and ended up showing you what family really means. And sometimes it's the fierce, beautiful woman who taught you that the bravest thing you can do is let someone love you back. Nathan Brooks had built an empire. But his greatest achievement would always be the family he found in the rain.